Good morning, everybody. How are you? Happy Halloween to everybody. I see Zane is joining us. Emily is joining us. Hi, Sandy. How are you? Victoria Cruz Gonzalez. Hola. How are you, Victoria? We're going to have a fun little live stream here today, and it's going to be a little bit about shading. And I won't be drawing for too long. I just want to have a little chat with you guys here today, share with you a couple of books, share with you a couple of drawings that I've done over the course of the last year or so. Hi, Ileana. How are you today? I hope it's not too cold in Montreal. It was freezing here on Eastern Long Island last night. It was 30 degrees and it's Halloween. That's crazy. I don't remember it being that cold in a very long time, but I'm sure it's much, much colder up in Montreal. Emily, how are you, Emily? Welcome. So I'll give everyone a couple more minutes to get started. Before we get started, this is going to be my, I'll give everyone a chance to join us. Hi, Akun. What I'm going to share with you is my Halloween costume for the podcast. Nancy, hello, Nancy. How are you? So this is going to be my Halloween costume. This is my Michael Jackson Thriller look. Not that I'm a big Michael Jackson fan, but I thought that I stole the hat out of my wife's closet. I don't really have a Halloween costume for the pod. I keep saying podcast. I'm just so used to saying that. Hi, Ruka. Hi, Ian. Hi, Nancy. So yesterday, some of my students in class were wearing a costume. So I figured I might as well just go grab something. So I went in my wife's closet because she has so much stuff. And this was a hat that we bought together when we were in Las Vegas. Hey, Melanie from Germany, welcome. And I'm like, okay, this is the best I'm going to be able to do for a Halloween costume. So this is my Michael Jackson Thriller look. And then this is going to be my going to a card game type of look for Halloween. I don't know. Hi, Aurora. And yeah, that's my Halloween costume. Okay. So let's put that away because, yeah, I'm not really a Halloween person. I really like the candy more than anything else. My wife loves the decorations and all that fun stuff. So, hi, Kimberly. Welcome to the live stream. I'm not going to say podcast anymore. I'm just going to say live stream. So in today's live stream, I just want to I was thinking, what am I going to draw today? You know, every Saturday, it's like, okay, what am I going to draw? And I never really know what I'm going to draw. And I always pull from the class that I had on Thursday and Friday because, as you well know, it's mid-semester kind of at the School of Visual Arts. And I'm teaching the Advanced Life Drawing on Thursday, and I'm teaching Foundation Drawing on Friday. So I'm like, what could I pull? Yeah. Thanks, Andy. What can I pull from class that is really valuable, that's fresh in my mind, and share it with you all here on the live stream? And shading. A lot of people have many, many issues with shading, just simple shading, and that's why you see the drawing that you see there on the monitor. This little torso study that I did for practice during the week. Sierra049 on Instagram had left me a comment on my Instagram page, and they were like, God, I wish I could shade like that. And you can. And I'm going to show you the techniques that you could practice to be able to shade. Not that this is the best shading in the world, but there's some skills that you need to be able to shade lightly and shade darkly, and that's what we're going to talk about here in this live stream. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a couple of really, really cool exercises that you can practice on a weekly basis that will greatly improve the way that you shade. And what I like to call, I have to be like really politically correct. I usually say to my students in the classroom, I'm like, this is developing your lover's touch, your soft lover's touch. And all my students kind of like roll their eyes, and they're like rolling their eyes. Oh, he's an old man. And but yeah, what it is, it's your soft touch. And I joke with my students, you have to kind of develop your soft touch, and that's what the shading techniques are going to share with you and show you, I should say. And then also, I'm talking a mile a minute here. Also in today's I only had one cup of coffee. In today's podcast, you're going to discover whether or not you're heavy-handed or light-handed. That's a really important thing for you to discover. But before we do that, hi, Ebony. Aurora is here. Hanik Music. Okay, cool. Thank you. I probably didn't say your name right. First, let me share. Let me have a little show and tell with you here this morning. I promise you, I will slow down and I will talk a little bit better than how I'm talking right now. Let me share with you 3 books, 3 different artists that I love. So I'm going to put this drawing to the side. Okay. Now, this is an artist, his name, and I've shown this book before on the live stream before, and his name is Chris Van Allsburg, and the name of the book is The Mysteries of Harris Burdick. And I bought this book many, many, many years ago. As you can tell, it doesn't even have a cover because the cover ripped. I looked at it so much, and I used to bring it into school all the time. And this illustration, let me zoom out just a touch here. Come on now. Zoom out for me. Okay, cool. That's good. All right. So this is an extreme of shading. Tylene is here. Welcome. SB, welcome. So this is all about, shading in a soft way. This is what I would call shading with values. And this Chris Van Allsburg artist is a master, to say it lightly, a master at shading with values, okay? And what we were talking about with this illustration yesterday in class was how to control where the viewer looks first, second, and third. And we look over here at this table first because this little under the rug thing is knocking the table over. And we look here first, we look here second. We definitely don't look at the furniture first. Why? Because it's all similar valued out, and it's soft edges. This is a contrasting value. This is a hard edge. But make no mistake about it, Chris Van Allsburg has a ton of value control. Okay, and the whole book is just a treasure of beautiful, beautiful drawings that I won't go through with you right now. I just want to show you the extreme. So this is the extreme of shading, and I would just call this, a lot of people who sign up to the website, drawingtutorialsonline.com, and sign up for the coaching, which I'm not doing right now, they really like tone next to tone, and they do not believe in line. And I'm cool with that. I don't have a problem with drawing a tone next to a tone next to a tone. Like, there's really no line. The only line really is the chord, but some teachers would say that chord is not a line, it's actually a tone. It's a dark valued tone that makes up the chord. But when you look at what I'm doing here, and this is by no means a comparison because Chris Van Allsburg is just a great artist, I like tone and line. Okay, so what you see over here is a beautiful line, and you also see the tone. Now, I'm not saying one is better than the other. You have to kind of figure out what you like, but I like both. And I just want to share with you this little journey of my inspirations. So this book, I don't want to flip through it all because it's not fair to Chris, but if you want to check out his drawings, just Google or buy the book. I'm sure it's not that expensive. This is, if you like tone drawings and painting, and illustration and doing long drawings, everybody who likes that sort of thing should own this book. Okay, so now if I put that book down and I grab another treasure that I own, this is a treasure, this book, and let me zoom out. Okay, I bought this book many, you can see it's all kind of ripped up and stuff. I bought this book many years ago at a museum in Pennsylvania. I think that I don't know how old this book is, but I'm going to say it's like over 20 years old, okay? And it's just a treasure of drawings. And one of the drawings that I just absolutely love, which is the bipolar opposite of the Chris Van Allsburg drawings, is this one. And I used to draw just with the tone, and I love drawing with tone. It's like my first love, because drawing with tone is like drawing like a painter, and I've been a painter my whole life. But then I saw this, and I'm like, oh my God, look at this line. Look at how descriptive it is. Look at how motionful the drawing is. It's not stiff. It has a ton of motion. It has a ton of movement. It has a ton of three-dimensional form. And I'm saying to myself, how is Mucha doing this just with line? So for many years, I studied the drawings in the Harris Burdick book, the Chris Van Allsburg. I used to bring this to class every semester and talk about values with my students with this book. This is how I used to teach before there was a computer. I would bring this book into class, okay, on the day that we did tone. And then on the day that we did line, because I love line and tone, I brought this book into class. And I talked about, the convex line, the light line, the dark line, the shaded line going in the direction of the limb, wrapping around, convex line, all that fun stuff, loosey-goosey line here with the bear's head. So this would be the book that I would share when I would teach line, because I like to teach both. Okay, I don't believe in just tone next to tone. And, again, I'm not judging people who just do tone next to tone. That's cool. You have to do what you like. And now this is a book that I've owned since college, okay? And so that's well over 30 years old. This is a 30-year-old book, and this is another treasure. And look at how beat up it is, because I used to bring it into class in my backpack and show it with all my students. I used to draw in it. It's actually from the East Islip Public Library, my old town, East Islip, where I kind of grew up. And if I go to the page that, this drawing right over here is now you have to understand, this drawing was created in, it just says 1827 to 1834. So I'm sure it's been faded over the years. I'll touch on texture a little bit as we go on. Hi, Helen, welcome. So with this particular drawing, what I love so much about it is that when I looked at this drawing, I was like, oh my God, that drawing of that guy on the horse, it just looks alive. Like, it looks real. It doesn't look like a tone next to tone drawing, like an illustration. This guy looks real. Let me show the cover again. Ruka wants to see it. So it's just, it just says Ang. And it's the Ang Centennial. Okay. And yeah, I don't know if this book is still in publication, but this is a nice blend between the line and the tone. So when we looked at the Mucha drawing, it was very stylized. And when we looked at the Chris Van Allsburg drawing, it was very, very tonal, okay, with no line. So I would call that extreme. And when I looked at this for the first time, I was like, you know what? I don't know how to draw like this. Like, this is insane. Like, you can feel the guy's stomach. You can feel the ribs. And this is just with like some really light line. And then he's put in tone with line. You can see he's got the line that separates over here. He has tone. Now, this drawing is over 100 years old, so I'm sure it's a little faded. But it's just a study. Like, it's not even a finished piece. It's just a study. So Nancy asked, does using line help give a piece a sense of solidity or physicality if it doesn't have a background? For me, how I would answer that is just, it's an aesthetic thing for me, Nancy. I just love the aesthetics of how line looks because of this guy. And I could show you all of the drawings in this book, and I've got other books of his that I can do an entire live stream, and we can just talk about the drawings. But for me, it's the aesthetics of how the line looks. And there are some things that, personally, as an artist, I only know how to do with line. I get better results using line on the edge of things versus just the tone. And the other thing, Nancy, with the line, and why I use it, is because it's just, I do a lot of short studies as of late, and I'm not doing these drawings that are taking me like 30, 40 hours. I'm doing a drawing that takes me 2.5, 3 hours. Hey, Marie, welcome. And yeah, so the line is a great way to, like what you wrote there, avoid that fuzzy edge. So the other thing with the line is that don't outline everything equally. So when we look at this beautiful drawing, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit because my camera is not that good from this far away. Let me just come in a little bit more here. So again, this is what I would call, for me personally, one of my favorite drawings ever because it's very lifelike. And the line is what I would call gravity infused. And there's tone and there's line. And it's awesome. So I've learned now over the years to do both. I really, really like to do line and tone, both equally. So I also have some drawing pads that I want to share with you. But before I get to the drawing pads, let me just give you a couple of exercises that you could practice. Okay, let me get my little grayscale here so I can figure out where I'm at with the zooming in. Okay, let's leave it like that. I'll zoom out just a touch here. Cool. Boy, that's a tough one. Hanta, that's a cool username. Very nice. So the title of this live stream was shading techniques that you can practice. I think that's what it is. I don't even know. I wrote something like that. So this is one of the most important things for shading. It's the values. Okay, now I know I'm a broken record and I talk about the same thing over and over and over again, but once I learned values and understood them and was able to match them, here's another value scale, okay? And being able to find a value is really valuable, okay? So everything that I'm going to talk about in this short little live stream here today it revolves around the values. And you cannot shade unless you're able to match these values, okay? So let's get started. Let me let's just dive into it. It's going to be really informal today. So, let me show you the paper. My two favorite papers. So today, got my attendance on there from yesterday's class. Today I'm going to draw, and this is fast becoming my favorite paper, okay? Legion Stonehenge colors. Okay, so Craig, thank you so much for introducing me to this pad. I know a lot of other artists use it, but I tend to be stuck in my ways, and I don't like to deviate from the tools that I use. But this paper is slowly but surely becoming one of my favorites. It's an expensive paper. Like I won an 18 by 24 pad, and it was like $44, and I'm like, really? So that's the downside of it. I haven't bought one yet, but this is the pad that and you guys know this, because you've been watching me. This is my favorite all-time pad that I've been using for years. 80-pound paper, Strathmore drawn. It's not that expensive. You can buy it anywhere. It's very user-friendly. It erases really good. It tolerates a little eraser abuse. So today we're working on this paper, okay? So let's dive into it. So shading techniques. One of the most important things, I got threads hanging from, this is a brand new shirt. I got threads hanging from it. Beautiful. Okay, so one of the most important things is, it's really great paper. Every time you draw in your sketchbook, you should practice drawing a grayscale. I would have liked to have done that a little bit higher on the paper. So go dark, and you're not going to do this in one fell swoop, like one grayscale and you're done. You could, but this is just good for practicing shading. So there's going to be a dark middle tone, and now we're going to go to the middle tone. Live in the middle tone for a little while. Just live here and practice this pressure. So now we're going to go light middle tone, and now we're going to go light, super light, super light, super light. Live there. Now, that's not the best grayscale I've ever done, but it's a grayscale nonetheless. And you need to be able to practice this on a weekly basis. Every time you draw, your warm-up session should include a grayscale. So if I wanted to, I can so look at that. In a matter of like 30 seconds, with this pencil on this Stonehenge paper, I got a really dark. People talk to me all the time about the Col-Erase on the website, and when they post their drawings for a critique, and they're like, I can't get the darks with the pencil, with the Col-Erase. I hate it. And I just showed you that you can get a dark in a matter of a second. So look, I'm going to go even darker right here. Super dark, super dark. That's pretty dark with this pencil. So a lot of it is what and I'm repeating myself and I apologize. But a lot of this is that some of these pencils, as they age, they dry out and they get hard. And new pencils are very soft and not brittle. And the other thing is the tooth of the paper. So if I show you the same grayscale that I just did right before the live stream on this paper, the Strathmore paper, look at how that's not as black or rich looking as the Stonehenge. So the pencil and paper combination is really important for being able to shade in the proper way, okay? So when we go back and we look at this little study, so what you can see with this study is that I'm choosing to use my dark only on the line. And I'm choosing to go very middle tone with the shading because it's a value ratio that's a light body. But nonetheless, practice the grayscale. And now I shared with you earlier, this is what somebody would do if they were heavy-handed. So if you're really heavy-handed, your grayscale is going to look like this. And then you do a little bit of light. This is a heavy-handed touch. We'll go back to the lover's touch. Heavy-handed, 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 pressing down hard, pressing down hard. When a teacher told me I was heavy-handed in like second year of college, I was like devastated. And I'm like, heavy-handed? Are you kidding me? That's like such an insult. But the teacher was right. I was heavy-handed, and everything I did was black and white. There was no middle tone. Okay. Welcome, Juan, to the live stream. No worries. You can play it back. So that's a heavy-handed grayscale. And then the opposite extreme is this is a light-handed grayscale. So you try to do your dark, and then your grayscale kind of looks like that. And trust me, I see this all the time in the classroom. There are so many people, so many artists out there who are very light-handed. And when I ask them to do a quick, like, little shading technique, the shading technique with the three values is that, okay? Because they haven't practiced. Hey, Camillo, they haven't practiced understanding the grayscale. Okay, now again, the grayscale is just this. It's just a value scale, and you could use anything for a grayscale. You can go to a hardware store and get a paint sample of grays and use that for a grayscale. Okay. Oh, I can't say your first name, but I can say your last name, Nesto. Cool. So the same thing now goes with line. So I would have liked to have done a better grayscale. Let me just, now look, I'm going on the wrong side of I don't know if you can see this, but you're going to develop a nice dull point, and that's really, really cool when you get that dull point. Let me go back to the dull point. So I'm just going to do this a little bit more even-handed, or at least try to. Live here in the lights, live here in the lights, live here in the lights, develop your light touch. So what you should be doing, welcome from Portugal, Alex, thank you. What you should be doing if you're having a hard time shading, and when you shade and you see like a little rib on the person's body and you make the rib like super dark, just practice this. Just practice shading lightly. Okay, live here. Do these gradations. Do a short little gradation. Okay, and then the other beautiful thing that you can do is you can do it with line. So what I see a lot of people do, let me get a different pencil that's a little sharper, with line, is they do a quick line and it looks like that, and that line is as stiff as a board. It's really stiff. So when you look at this little sketch here, this little study, you can see that I'm using line variety. Okay, welcome pizza crust. I really wanted pizza last night, but we didn't get pizza last night, but I was dying for Italian food. I wanted that oozy-goozy cheese. Okay, now that we have a lot of people here, I'll put my Halloween costume back on. So my 3 versions of the Halloween costume. So this is my Michael Jackson Thriller look. And this is my go into a card game being a card shark look. I don't know what the third look is. So let's that's the Michael Jackson look. This is just a guy down on his luck look, I guess. Okay. Liverpool. Oh my God, very cool. Wow, Morocco. Mr. Med9 from Morocco. Said Barbs from the Philippines. And God, I can't. I'm better with the pencil, and I'm not really good with words and letters. Fekinel, boy, that was tough. Sabi, welcome. Ozzy Gonzalez, Florida. Trina Sen, India. God, no, Halloween is a pagan fest. I just think of Halloween as chocolate, okay? I love Snickers and Kit Kats and all that fun stuff. And then the next day, like, I feel like shit. Okay, so let me keep going here. So you can see that this drawing has the line over here that goes from dark to light. Okay, it's not just one line. And when you're not conscious of the values, right? Your line looks like that. It's just one valued line. So what you want to do is practice your line also. Okay, wow, everyone's saying hello, and I apologize for not saying hello to everybody. Jean Philippe from Paris, Manuel from Brazil, Akira from Brazil, I believe, Manuel, welcome. So you practice your line as well. Okay, so dark line, go over it. I'm not being loose here. So you see how that's still not black like that. Okay. So, but this line is looser and not stiff. So this is stiff and this is loose. Why? Because we're using a gradual buildup and we're doing S curves. That's a straight line. These are S curves. So that's a little unfair. So now what I can do, sound effects, is resharpen the pencil. Oops, resharpen the pencil and press down harder and build up your dark line. Don't like the way that looks. Build up the dark line. Build up. Go light, go dark. Go light, go dark. Scribble. So right now I'm getting stiff. I don't know why I'm getting stiff, but I'm just getting stiff. So scribble. Okay, so now this is... People are going to look at this live stream and they're going to come here and they're going to look at this drawing and they're going to be like, oh my God, what is this guy doing? But you have to practice these figure eights lightly. This is how, practicing this is how you're able to shade, say, this breast very lightly or this line over here very lightly. So, okay. Yeah, it took me a couple hours to do this drawing, and right now I'm just scribbling, but I'm still making the same marks on paper. So if how would I be shading? Okay, so with shading, you could shade. This is a block-in shading. So blocking in is just going in on a diagonal. Just shading on a diagonal. And I'm doing what? Is it a middle tone or is it a light middle tone? This is a little bit more of a light middle tone. Okay? So just practice shading on a diagonal. Then practice shading with some line vertically. And then practice shading in a curved way, a round form. Okay? Welcome, Martinez. And then practice shading, scribbling. Scribble, scribble, figure eights, circles. Practice shading, scribbling. Okay? So this is the way that I shade. When I'm working on a drawing like this, I'm doing lines that wrap around the hips. You can see them right over there, I think. Maybe not. I'm wrapping around the breast with curved lines. My first lines that I put down were the diagonal lines. I'm wrapping around the lower abs with very light line. Over here, I'm going horizontal. So I'm trying to, and you don't really see any pencil strokes over here. I like to see pencil strokes, but over here, I'm just kind of doing what? What technique am I doing? The scribbling. Okay, so right over here, I'm just scribbling. And so this looks different than that drawing because with that drawing, I used a brush to blend. But that's not what this live stream is about. This live stream is about something that you could practice, okay? Welcome, Menina. Beefy cow. So I showed this pad. This is my favorite pad for the Col-Erase. So I talked about the paper earlier. So I'm just answering Beefy Cow's question. So check this out. That's my favorite pad. Second favorite pad right now at this point in my life is this. Okay, and this is the paper that I'm drawing on now. Okay. So I don't really use a sketchbook. I use a sketch pad because I'm not really traveling, and I like to draw in the studio more than when I travel. And right now I'm not traveling anywhere where I'm able to draw. So I just draw at home in a sketch pad. So now here, let me give you one exercise that you can do. So let's recap. Welcome, everybody. Let me keep going here. So we talked about creating a grayscale, a value scale. You can call it one or the other. It's just a gradation. And then we talked about, are you heavy-handed or are you light-handed? And we said, practice shading lightly and live there. Okay? Yes, shading will help with sleep. Absolutely, Richard. Can I start a series on the basics of figure drawing? I love figure drawing, but YouTube hates it. And every time I do something with figure drawing, they're always like doing something with my videos. They're trashing my like thumbnails and stuff. So I'll try to do something, a keep it clean figure drawing thing because figure drawing is my favorite thing in the world. So I'll figure it out. That's a great suggestion, a beginner series. So we talked about the grayscale. Then we talked about your line. And when I broke the pencil and I did an awful line, don't just put one line down and use that for your edge. Build up your line gradually and practice scribbling with this loosey-goosey line. And when you shade, okay, well, I won't talk about gesture right now because this is a shading thing. I'll talk about it briefly at the end if I have some time. So just hang in there with me. And when you shade, okay, there's 4 different ways that I like to shade. Hey, Marco. I like to shade on a diagonal. That's called blocking in tone. It's very natural to shade on a diagonal to your stomach. I like to shade vertically a lot. That's a great way to shade. I also like to layer shading on a diagonal or a curved line, not diagonal, curved line, a round form. And then I like to scribble when I don't want there to be any pencil marks, okay? So another really, really good thing, well, let me leave that paper there. Another really good thing for you to practice is just draw a ball, okay, and just put a line that separates the light from the dark on the ball. Give it a cast shadow and shade. Give it your light and your shadow side. Okay, so that's a simple ball with a light, a shadow, and a cast shadow. And now let's give it... I mean, all my videos for the website are on Vimeo, but I don't have any following really on Vimeo. And so in terms of communication with people, YouTube is the place to be. In terms of where I keep my videos stored and what I pay for in terms of storage, it's all Vimeo. So draw that little ball, light, shadow, cast shadow. And now let's give it a little background tone. And the background tone is going to have a gradation. So now, what is all of this, what I'm doing right now? It's very light-handed, right? And so let's just kind of give it another value. Now, this is another one of the most important things that I think that you should practice. And this is just a quick little thing. Shading in a solid way. So what a lot of people do, and their artwork is very visually, it's not that strong and not as strong as it could be. So they'll draw the little sphere, the little ball. Let me do it over here. And they do the line that separates, and they do a little shading, a little shading, a little shading. They do the cast shadow, a little shading. Or they shade like on a zigzag, and you can still see the white paper. So when you do that, the drawing whatever the drawing is, perspective, interior, portrait, figure, the drawing is not as powerful when it's shaded in a choppy sort of way. But one of the most important things with shading is to just simply shade and practice getting rid of white paper, okay? Because when you want to create tone, you want to create tone with values. So when you look at this value scale and you look at this value number 3, there's no white paper showing through. It's solid. And this is one of the most important things that you could shade, is a solid tone. I love Mike Matisse. I actually just shared, I just put his book back on my bookshelf. I had it out. I shared his work to my students yesterday, and I said, you got to get Mike Matisse's book. There's so many great teachers out there. I love them all, and I respect them all. Hi, I don't know who you are, so you can teach me. Cool, Brian. Love that. Absolutely. You don't need to know who I am. You just need to practice these techniques, and these techniques are going to help you with shading. So you can see I have a solid light, and I have a solid shadow, and I have a solid cast shadow. Now, another thing that everybody should strive for when they do their artwork is they should strive to have a dark. My sinuses are going crazy today. A middle tone and a light in their drawing. A dark, a middle tone, and a light. Okay, so right now this drawing is just a light middle tone. So every drawing needs to have a dark, a middle tone, and a light, in my opinion. So when we look at this drawing, we have a dark line, we have a middle tone, shadow, and we have a light. Okay, so your drawings are going to be very powerful if you have those 3 values in them. And let me put this tape on the top here. Let me put that over there. So this is the grayscale you're going to practice at. You're going to practice it with your line, and you're going to practice, are you heavy-handed or are you light-handed? And this is really, really, really important that you practice incorporating 3 values. So let me resharpen this pencil. Okay, and let me just take the edge off of that point. All right, cool. So now let's add the 3rd value. So I'm going to go a little darker with my line, and I'm going to build up my line. I'm not just going to do a line like that, and that's it. That's stiff. You have to build it up. I wish I wouldn't have screwed up with breaking the pencil there, but so be it. So I'm going to build up my line. Let's clean up the edge. Go a little darker with the line. So this drawing is starting to develop into a little bit of a 3-value drawing. Okay, and this is just an exercise, everybody. Just an exercise. Welcome, Paul. Okay, so let's go a little darker over here. This is called your dark halftone. I don't want to get into all the labels of the modeling factors. I'm just showing you how to shade and what to practice. Now, your shadow, make it solid. Now we're going to turn this into the light. So now I'm going to use a scribbly, curvy pencil stroke. Figure 8s, light pressure, light pressure, light pressure, light pressure. To turn that, let's go a little darker over here. Okay, got good sound effects here this morning. Let's go a little bit darker with get rid of white paper. Okay, let's turn this. Let's give the background a little bit more gradation, a little bit more dark. Just bear with me for another minute so I can kind of crank this out for you. Okay, so we're just shading, and we're trying to use all the techniques. Blend the object into the cast shadow. Okay, where that object touches the tabletop or the floor or whatever, you're going to have your darkest dark. And I do have a model. I have a model in factors video here on YouTube somewhere. Okay, so that's a good thing to practice. Now, again, a lot of my students, we did this exercise in class yesterday, and I said, okay, here's the way that you shade, and now shade a pumpkin and give the pumpkin form light. Okay, and I looked at my students' drawings, and they drew the ball that represents the pumpkin, and they shaded, and maybe over here it was really dark, and maybe over here it was really light, and then maybe part of the cast shadow was dark, and part of the background was dark, but it was just patchy. So this live stream is just showing you some very, very simple things. Thank you, Ebenezer. Some very, very simple things that you could practice. Okay, so just being able to shade in a solid way is unbelievable practice. Okay, now what I'm noticing with this paper, because and I'm going to share with you something else here. So just look at this. Live in the light with your touch. Live in the light. Press down lightly, press down lightly, press down lightly. This is not rocket science. It's just really your eye-hand coordination, and it's just knowing some really simple fundamental things that you could practice that will certainly help you with your artwork. Okay, I don't really like the modeling with the light halftone, so I'm scribbling, 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 scribbling. Now I can come on in and I can clean up my edges and all of that and make it look a little bit prettier. But the point is, this is how you get to this, okay? Practicing those things on that sheet of paper that I just showed you and practicing them on a weekly basis is how you get to this. Now, I'll share with you the other tool that I like to use, because Aurora says the paper has a lot of tooth. It most certainly does. So let's deal with the tooth. Okay, so you don't have to do what I'm going to do next. You don't have to do this. I like to do this because it's fun. And this paper does have a lot of tooth. So now these are my brushes, okay, that I love to use. And these are cheapos. These are not expensive brushes. So there's an art supply store here on Eastern Long Island, and it's called Michael's. It's more of like a crafts store, but they have some pretty cool stuff. And so it's just a canvas bristle brush. And this has some pliability to it. So when I press down on the brush, it moves. Okay. Here's another one that I like to use for little detail areas. I press down on the brush and it moves. It's pliable. But then I also like brushes where they're a little stiffer. So this one's actually not that stiff. Okay. So if there's too much tooth for you, because here's the other paper. So you can do the same thing on this paper. Okay. Oops. Oh, there goes my pencil on the floor. Gotta love it. So this paper doesn't have as much tooth. So again, you have to choose the paper that works for you. And this one, it just takes a little bit longer. Don't worry about it, Dawn. You can come back and you could, I'm just going to share some drawings in my sketchbook. I'm not going to be drawing too much longer. Yeah, that's a long shift. So maybe you can catch this on the record, okay? Thank you for joining us. Yeah, so this paper doesn't have tooth. And I can come on in here to this little sphere and very quickly just shade it. And this paper is a little bit more forgiving. This paper is tooth heaven, okay? So what I do is I use these little brushes, these bristle brushes, and I just blend. So let's take this brush. It's about a little bigger than 1/2 of an inch, maybe 5/8 of an inch. And I'll just use this brush to blend. Gotta love the sound effects. So now that just took a lot of pencil off of the paper. And this is very, very tiny. This is like, what, 1 3/4 inches wide. So I'm just... So this is how I get this really, really soft technique. Now, don't be afraid to go off the lines. This is how you create atmosphere. And put everything into context. Are you doing... explain tooth. Tooth is the texture of the paper. So there's a smooth bristle paper. There's no texture. This paper has texture to it, and it's I call it the nooks and crannies and the bumps in the paper. So when you have all these nooks and crannies of the tooth, you get these little white dots when you shade. So what this brush does is it pushes the pencil into the crevasses or crevice, whatever you want to say. So I got some questions coming in hard and fast here. I'm just using the Col-Erase pencil, so you can find out some of this in the description of my videos. So I always only draw with the Col-Erase pencil, which is on the floor now. I don't use an HB or B. I used to draw with that, but I don't anymore. Okay, so yeah, so we have that now. Am I really going to bend down on the floor to get a pencil? Seriously? So yeah, I use these pencils until they get really small. Let's just use this one. Okay, let me resharpen this. So now we have this very soft what? I'm all over the place today here, people. Just bear with me. We have this very soft Chris Van Allsburg tone with no line here. Okay? But now what we're going to do is we're going to take the Mucha line that you see here and put it on top of the soft tone. And that's how I like to draw. Okay, so I have line on top of soft tone. Now you can get 10 other teachers that say, oh, Matt sucks, like you're not supposed to use line, he's ruining his drawings, he's making it really flat. But yeah, it's to each their own. You have to do what you really, really like. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll just come on in and I'll press down a little bit harder now. All of the weight is on my hand, not the pencil point. Okay, and I'll just kind of build this up. And I'll just do a little bit of dark line in the shadow. Just like that. And I'll do a little bit of clean up the edge line. Clean up the edge line. And I'll go back over and I'll do some form lines on the ball just to help it turn. Maybe do some form lines over there. Maybe clean up the edge. So that's how I like to draw, and that's how I like to take my time and really have fun. Again, everybody kind of has to do their own thing, but the point of today's lesson was basic things that you could practice anytime, anywhere. And then another tool that I absolutely love are these two erasers. Okay, happy Halloween. And you can come on in with these erasers and you can clean up your edges. So if you feel like your edge is a little too soft and fuzzy, come on in and draw a little bit with your eraser. And the same thing applies now with your touch. You have to press down nice and light with your touch. So obviously I'm going fast here. I would have liked to have been a little bit neater, a little less sloppier. I would have liked to have had a nice circle and not a lopsided ball. Yeah, I'll share with you. If you just hang in there with me for 5 more minutes, I'm going to go through 2 drawing pads with you. And those 2 people always ask, do you use a sketchbook? Do you use a sketchbook? No, I use drawing pads because I just like drawing pads better than sketchbooks. That's all. So my drawing pads are my sketchbooks. Now, I could sit here for a while and shade, but I don't want to bore you to death. So let's recap, and then I will show you some drawings. Okay? Now, I don't really, when you get to this point in the mix here, you don't want to be using your hands to get rid of the eraser crumbs. You want to use this brush. Okay? So, yeah. So do you see how you can do this? Let's recap, and then I'll take this paper out of the way, and I'll show you some drawing pads. So everything stems from the value scale. Every time you begin to draw in your sketchbook or for a warm-up, do the grayscale. Okay, it's great practice because you will discover whether or not you're heavy-handed or you're light-handed, and your goal is to, if you're heavy-handed, your goal is to live with this light, graceful, scribbly line and just to sit here and shade in a light way. Just sit there and shade, and this is how you develop your touch. And if you're too light-handed, be a monster and press down a little bit harder. Don't be so timid, okay? And make a decision. Where are you going to press down hard? In the shadow, okay? And then also do this with line. So don't just do a line with one line. Build up your line and make it nice and soft. And just practice scribbling with a middle tone. Every drawing you do should have a dark, a middle tone, and a light. How do we shade? We shade and we block in on a diagonal. We can also block in or shade vertically. It's very fast. We can also shade curved, and we can also shade scribbling. Last but not least, it's a black Prismacolor. Last but not least, when you shade things, the biggest hiccup that people have is they don't shade in a solid way. They shade patchy. So this is the ball, and they'll do a dark stiff line over here, a dark line over here. They'll do a little shade in over here, and then they just stop. So there's really no light and shade. It's just patchiness. So you have to figure out what's going to work best for you. But one of the most important things that you could do with figure drawing is to have a top to bottom light and shadow. Where are my brushes here? Brushes, brushes, brushes. So you can see right over here, top to bottom, shadow. Okay, it's skinny over here, but there's a top to bottom shadow. There's a top to bottom light. And it's not patchy, okay? Really, really important. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Thank you, Michelle. I really do appreciate that. Danny, I appreciate that. The highlights and the light, I've never heard of Lambert's emission law. I just teach, let me show you my lesson page from yesterday, okay? Because this will save me a lot of time. Let me get my drawing pad. It's right here. Bear with me. Okay, let me move this stuff. So this was my lesson page from yesterday. A little bit of figure drawing, a little bit of values, a little bit of modeling factors, a little bit of value control. And this is how I do things. And again, I'm not saying I'm right. This is just what I do. 10 other teachers could say, Matt doesn't know what he's talking about. This is not how you do it. But I just say, okay, everything has a highlight. If you're going to model, you need a light halftone. Then there's the line that separates the light from the dark. Then there's the dark halftone. Then there's a reflected light. Then there's an accent where one thing touches another. And then there's a cast shadow. And you practice the sphere. Okay, this is without the brush on the Strathmore paper. Very different than the Stonehenge paper that is very, very toothy and very, very textured. Okay, so this is the same thing I was teaching yesterday in class. And then we just applied that to the figure. And we did the modeling factors on the figure over here. Okay, and there were a lot of other things that we were talking about line, we were talking about values and how to control where the viewer looks and all that. That's a story for another day. That's storytelling, and I won't get into that here today. But yeah, so let me just look at the questions. Stan 17, you draw a dragon, not today, but I was watching Game of Thrones last night, and I love that show with the dragons. Appreciate that, Jacob. Okay, let me just look back here. That's okay. I don't pay attention to the toxic comments. I've been doing art on YouTube since I don't know when, 2007. And yeah, the negative comments or the toxic comments kind of just roll off of my shoulders. It doesn't bother me at all. I kind of know where social media lives in my world, and I limit it as much as I possibly can. And, you know, as an artist, social media is the best thing in the world and the worst thing in the world. It's the best thing because you can watch me teach you for free. And this is the same stuff I teach at a college where people are paying $55,000 a year to go to the college. And I'm teaching you the same information for free. Now, it's not in a structured way, but it's bits and pieces here and there. So that's the good part of social media. And the other good part of social media is that you get inspired all the time by beautiful people and beautiful artists that are doing really great things. And the bad thing about social media is the negativity. But the bad thing about social media is that people who are just starting out and they're an artist and they're starting out, they get discouraged when they look at somebody whose artwork is amazing But what they don't realize is that that artist has been working on their artwork for 30 years, and they have so much crap, and they're not going to put their crap on their Instagram. They're only going to put their best stuff on their Instagram, right? Now, where is my remote control? You've got to be kidding me. This is really, what am I doing to myself here? Okay, bear with me. My remote control has got to be somewhere. This is the story of my life. Ah, there it is. Got it. You know, speaking about remote controls, my wife and I, the kids were out last night, and we're like, okay, it's a calm night. Let's just sit down and watch 2 episodes, season 7, Game of Thrones, really great season. And we couldn't find the remote. And we were looking for the remote and looking for the remote and looking for the remote. Where was the remote control? It was up in my daughter's room on her desk. She must have just kind of blatantly forgot she had it and just brought it upstairs. And my wife actually went into my daughter's room to look, and she didn't see it because my daughter's room is such a mess. Yeah, Danny says there are so many amazing artists online that it could get very discouraging for somebody who's just starting out and they're learning how to control paint in Procreate, or they're learning how to oil paint, or they're learning how to draw a portrait. And you start comparing yourself to somebody on Instagram who's been doing this for 35 years, and you're like, why are they so good and I suck? It's just, it's not a way to use social media because you don't know the backstory about how long these people have been working and all the bad, like I can show you, I have a basement full 6 flat files, huge flat files of really crappy artwork. Am I going to share that with you on YouTube? No, I'm only going to share with you my best stuff. Okay, so because of my ego, I don't want to show you my worst stuff. Why would I do that? I would feel like crap. So that's the thing about social media. You have to put things in context. If you look at somebody and they are really good, understand they probably have been doing this for many, many years, and there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears behind the artwork, okay? Now, let me share with you my sketchbook. Okay, so this is, I got to zoom out. Come on now, work with me. Work with me, work with me, work with me. This is an 11 by 14 pad. So this was a sketch for an illustration course that I made on the website, drawingtutorialsonline.com. And this was just about how to do a sketch for your painting. And this was about composition techniques and all that fun stuff, and it's a very tonal drawing, and it looks very different than the other drawings that I'm going to show you next. So you look at her first, you don't look down over here because of soft edges, you look at her first, and then you go to the barn, and yeah, okay. So that was just a sketch for an illustration, how to pre-plan your illustration out. So this is my sketchbook. Okay, so next page in the sketchbook is just a figure study with the tone that we were just talking about. Okay. Warm up, scribbling, line, dive into the tone. It's like a 2-hour study. This is my sketchbook. I don't like to draw on every page. If I do a good drawing, I leave. So I love line and tone, and this is line and tone. Okay. So I'm drawing with very scribbly line. Let me zoom in just a little bit more. Cool. This is my first warm-up drawing before I start, scribbly. And then I'm just practicing how to draw eyes, drawing with line, drawing with tone, drawing with soft line, drawing with line, drawing with the beginnings of tone. So I like to do both, and just look at the scribble. Practice just doing these circles. It's going to help you so much. I like this page a lot because it's just line, and it's just screwing around in my sketchbook, and I like this drawing a lot. That head has a lot of motion. I love the body with the anatomy. The proportions are all screwy, but I don't really care. It's just a really nice warm-up. I don't really care about the negative comments, Juan, because I mean, I know I've been doing art my whole life, and I've painted hundreds of book covers, and I've been a successful artist my whole life. So it doesn't really matter to me. If somebody doesn't like my artwork, it's not going to ruin my day. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, I go on the internet and there is artwork that I don't like, and it's just not everybody's going to like your artwork. It's just the way of life. Some people like hamburgers and some people hate them. So this is a little bit more just working with the beginnings of tone. So it's really a lot of line, and this totally relates to what we were teaching this morning. So look, I'm shading on a vertical. This is too far away. I'm sorry. I'm shading on a vertical. Exactly the same thing that I shared with you earlier. I'm shading on a diagonal. Shading on a diagonal. Okay? Form lines. Shading with form lines. Shading with form lines. The same thing. Okay? That I shared with you this morning. I'm using a Col-Erase pencil, Trillis, shading with tone. So there's a little bit of line, and there's a little bit of tone. And when you look into this girl's, Miriam's eyes, worked with Miriam at the beginning of the semester, you can see all of the shading, the same things that we talked about. So we shade around the eye. We shade on a diagonal. We curve around with our shading. Look at the light tone over here. Look at the light tone. So it's exactly what we were doing here. This is the practice you need to do. Okay? Okay. Let's keep going. This is my sketchbook. A little bit more shading with the eye. This was how to draw the features of the face. It's a course on my website. How not to draw the eye with the stiff line. Okay. This is my sketchbook. That's a terrible little sketch. This is my sketchbook. That's a little 2-hour study of a statue with soft tone. And there is some line on the top. Okay. There's shading lines on the diagonal. Can you see that on the video? See the shading lines over here, the form near the trapezius? I love that little sketch. That's fun. Now, what else did we talk about in the beginning part of this video? Shading in a solid way is a thing that people struggle with. Look at the head, how it's shaded in a solid way. Really important. So there's light and shadow. Top light. Let's keep going in the sketchbook here. So this was a drawing that I started, and I didn't like it. And I'm like, okay, proportions are off. That's screwy. Let's start over again. So I started over again, and we have that. Okay. So this is just, I would call this drawing, I'm not comparing myself to Chris Van Allsburg with these drawings because his drawings are really great. I'm not comparing myself to him. We're just kind of using this as a teaching thing. This is tone next to tone, Chris Van Allsburg. Okay, so I would say 90% of my drawing here is tone next to tone, but 10% of it is line on the edge. Do you see that? So I love line, and I love combining line. You have to. I like the combining line and tone. Okay, I'm going to share with you. Thank you so much. I'm not going to, oh God, Silem, is that how you pronounce your name? Silem, thank you so much for that $2. I really appreciate that. Yeah, this is going to be up right after, okay? It'll always be on YouTube. It'll always be on YouTube. Thank you so much. Silem just donated $2. Wow, that was really, really nice of you. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll share with you one more pad, okay? So this, again, Strathmore 11 by 14 drawing pad. This is gonna fall out. So just this is the beginnings of shading. Focus. And So just a little statue at the Met, Greek and Roman wing at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And so you see how I'm shading? So I'm shading on a diagonal, shade on the diagonal, shade on the diagonal. There's some form lines wrapping around the head, lover's touch, light touch. Okay. So yeah, this is shading before you use, if you choose to, use a brush. You don't have to use a brush. You can just kind of keep going this way. I got to admit, this paper has a whole lot less tooth to it. It's a little bit more user-friendly. I do like this paper. This was for the website, a course. I don't want to zoom out. Yeah, so let's keep going here. This is some line practice. I'm going to zoom out a little. It's too zoomed in. Come on now. Help me out. A little bit more. Cool. So this is just line practice. How to draw eyes. How not to draw eyes. Just how to draw eyes. A little bit of line and a little bit of tone. So all the things we were talking about here this morning. Curving around with your line. Shading on the diagonal. Dark, middle tone, and light. All the same things. More shading. So everything is the ball. And your eye is basically the ball. That's the top of the ball. That's the bottom of the ball. Okay? So this is just about how to draw with tone. This is just some ideas I'm trying to get. These are titles for a course. Find in the middle, seeing the gesture. Yeah, blind contour. I'm just trying to think of things. So this is just sketching. Don't like that. Some bodies out of my imagination. Another shading drawing in the sketchbook. Same things we've been talking about. You can see it's all done with a Col-Erase pencil. I'm shading around the breast, shading around the rib cage. I just put a pencil mark on there. Beautiful. Shading around this muscle called the tensor fasciae latae. Shading vertically, building up the thickness of the line, not just doing one line. Italy. My mom's from Italy. Hey, Mom and Dad, you're probably watching. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. In the middle of the afternoon. That's what senior citizens do. They chill out and just have a drink, maybe a vodka, maybe some Italian cookies. And let me just show you a couple more. So, yeah, this is just a line drawing. So, again, who inspires you? Who inspires you? So this guy inspires me with the line. The line is phenomenal. Okay, the line is phenomenal. I'm just kind of going through this very quickly here. So I like to practice drawing just with line. Okay, or the Chris Van Allsburg with the tone. Okay, a couple more in this sketchbook, and then we're going to call this a live stream. I don't even know how long have we been going? Wow, an hour and 8 minutes. Okay, I'm almost done here. So my tips for how to get an idea from your head onto the paper is just to draw something from a photo and just have it stick with you for a day in your mind, and then try to draw what you drew from the photo out of your imagination. So in class, we draw the model, and then I say, okay, take 5 minutes now and draw that pose from your imagination. Turn the page in your sketchbook so you can't see the drawing. And that's how you practice kind of pulling something out of your imagination. That's how you start. Okay, so this is just warming up. These are drawings out of my imagination in my sketchbook. People always ask me, do you use a sketchbook? This is my sketchbook. Here's another tonal drawing with line and tone. Okay, line and tone, the combination. So look at the dark line here. Wow, look at my hand. Why is my hand so shaky today? We have dark line and we have light line. That's the value scale. That's what I'm telling you guys to practice. Couple more. Oh, this one I totally screwed up. So I drew this guy. He's a great model. And so it's just, this is more of the soft shading with the scribbling, and some of the shading lines are wrapping around. This is the modeling factors. It's blended. You can see my lines are wrapping around the stomach. So this is being inspired by, not comparing, just showing you what I'm inspired by. So I'm inspired by the Ang drawing, and then I just do my own thing. You got to do your own thing. You got to practice. Now with this, I was an idiot because I drew on the back of this paper. What an idiot. I can't believe I did this. And then this is just more of a 90% tone drawing with 10% line on the edge. Okay. I do speak Italian, a little bit, yeah. But I'm not going to speak it now because it's been a long time. And when my Italian grandmother used to live in our house, I had no choice. I had to speak with her. And now I lost my place. This sketch pad is done. Just a couple of little drawings in green. So I think we're going to call this live stream finished. I wanted to just do something different. I can show you sketchbooks after sketchbooks after sketchbooks, but I think you got the idea. And I want to thank you all for joining me. Now, if I do a live stream, not every Saturday, but as many Saturdays as I possibly can, if you want to get notified when I do the live streams, click on the notification bell and subscribe to the channel, and you'll get notified because I like to give out a lot of information for you guys. And yeah, if you're interested in what I do, I've got links below the video in the show more part. I have my Instagram, my website, and yeah. So I want to thank you guys for joining me, and I hope you have a really happy, safe Halloween. And thank you, Aurora, SB, thank you, Adrex, thank you, Sandy, thank you so much. And let me close the video out as I say thank you to everybody with a prettier drawing that I can put up here. Danny Chen, thank you so much for joining us. Timothy, please say a short sentence in Italian. What can I say? Ma signore, mi dispiace. Yeah, I don't... That's my short Italian sentence. Thank you, Helen. Aurora, thank you. Manuel, thank you for joining us. Camillo, thank you for joining us. Roscaline, that's a really cool name. God. Yk Mono, thank you. Joyce Smith, thank you. Julio, thank you for joining. Gurney, thank you. God, I can't say that name. My eyes are freaking out. Random. Lil Miss Random 17, gotcha. And also, thank you so much for Sierra049 on Instagram for asking about the shading and saying they couldn't shade. So I hope I helped you. Chiara or Kiara, thank you. Adrex, Anne-Marie. You guys have a safe Halloween. Eat lots of chocolate. Remco, Kimberly, I appreciate you joining me here today as my drawing slides down. Oh, let me go get Truffs. Truffs is in the room. She's sleeping. Hold on. Let me get Truffs. Maybe we'll get Truffs to Ariana. Thank you. We'll get Truffs to wear a little bit of a... We'll get her to wear a Halloween costume. Truffs, you want to wear the hat? All right, cool. Yeah, let's move the microphone over a little bit. Truffs, say goodbye to everybody. You got your hat on. You're looking very cool today, like Michael Jackson, Thriller. Put the tongue in, Truffs. Come on, that's very rude. Don't stick your tongue out at people. I'll see you later, Phoenix. All right, tongue in, Truffs, tongue in. Oh, you're a big girl. You're a heavy gal. Okay. Have a good day, Marie. Get the breathing on the microphone. Chocolate is poison for dogs. Oh, God. I've given my other French bulldog lots of chocolate chip cookies. I'll see you guys. Have a good day. Take care.